Varnam refers to the luster of one's original identity. The original luster of gold or silver is brilliant. Similarly, the original luster of the living being, who is part of the Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha, is the luster of Ananda or pleasure, Anandamaya Vyasat. Every living entity has the right to become Anandamaya, joyful, because he is part of the Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha, Krishna. Why should the living entity be put into tribulation because of dirty contamination by the material modes of nature? The living entity should become purified and regain his swarupa, his original identity. This he can do only by devotional service. Therefore, one should adopt the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is described here as Guru, the spiritual master of all other spiritual masters. Even though we may not have the fortune to contact the Supreme Lord personally, the Lord's representative is as good as the Lord himself, because such a representative does not say anything unless it is spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, therefore, gives a definition of Guru. Yare Deka Tarikaha Krishna Upadesha. The bona fide Guru is he who advises his disciples exactly in accordance with the principles spoken by Krishna. The bona fide Guru is he who has accepted Krishna as Guru. This is the Guru Parampara system. The original Guru is Vyasadeva because he is the speaker of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, wherein everything spoken relates to Krishna. Therefore, Guru Puja is known as Vyasa Puja. In the final analysis, the original Guru is Krishna. His disciple is Narada, whose disciple is Vyasa. And in this way, we gradually come in touch with the Guru Parampara. One cannot become a Guru if he does not know what the personality of Godhead, Krishna, or his incarnation wants. The mission of the Guru is the mission of the Supreme Personality of Godhead to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. Okay, that the mission of the Guru, the mission of the Guru is the mission of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. Text 49. 1 second. Okay. Neither all the demigods, nor the so-called gurus, nor all other people, either independently or together, can offer mercy that equals even 1/10,000th of yours. Therefore, I wish to take the shelter of your lotus feet. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. It is said, Kamais taistar shita jana prapadyante niha devata. People, in general, being motivated by material desires, worship the demigods to get fruitive activities very quickly. People generally do not become devotees of Lord Vishnu, since Lord Vishnu never becomes the order supplier of his devotee. Lord Vishnu does not give a devotee benedictions that will create a further demand for benedictions. By worshiping the demigods, one may get results, but as described in Bhagavad Gita, Antavattu phalam te sam tad bhavati alpamadasam. Whatever great benedictions one may achieve from the demigods are all temporary, because the demigods themselves are temporary. Their benedictions are also temporary and have no permanent value. Those who aspire for such benedictions have a poor fund of knowledge. Tad bhavati alpa medasam. The benedictions of Lord Vishnu are different. By the mercy of Lord Vishnu, one can be completely freed from material contamination and go back home, back to Godhead. Therefore, the benedictions offered by the demigods cannot compare to even 1/10,000th of the Lord's benedictions. One should not, therefore, try to obtain benedictions from the demigods or false gurus. One should aspire only for the benediction offered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 18:66, Sarvadharmam Parityaja Mahamekam Saranam Praja Aham Tvam Sarvapapibhyo Mokshishyami Mahastucha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. This is the greatest benediction. Wow. Okay. Text 50. As a blind man, being unable to see, accepts another blind man as his leader. People who do not know the goal of life accept someone as a guru who is a rascal and a fool. But we are interested in self-realization. Therefore, we accept you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as our spiritual master. For you are able to see in all directions and are omniscient like the sun. Okay, purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The conditioned soul, being wrapped in ignorance, and therefore not knowing the goal of life, accepts a guru who can juggle words and make some display of magic that is wonderful to a fool. Sometimes a foolish person accepts someone as a guru because he can manufacture a small quantity of gold by mystic yogic power. Because such a disciple has a poor fund of knowledge, he cannot judge whether the manufacture of gold is the criterion for a guru. Why should one not accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, from whom unlimited numbers of gold mines come into being. Aham sarvasya prabhava matak sarvam pravartate. All the gold mines are created by the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, why should one accept a magician who can manufacture only a small portion of gold? Such gurus are accepted by those who are blind, such knowing, not knowing the goal of life. Maharaja Satyarata, however, knew the goal of life. He knew the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore he accepted the Lord as his guru. Either the Supreme Lord, or his representative can become guru. The Lord says, Mam eva ye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. One can get relief from the clutches of Maya as soon as he surrenders unto me. Therefore, it is the Guru's business to instruct his disciple to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead if he wants relief from the material clutches. This is the symptom of the Guru. This same principle was instructed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yare deka tare kaha Krishna upadesha. In other words, one is advised not to accept a guru who does not follow the path of instruction given by Lord Krishna. Very good points. Text 51. A materialistic so-called guru instructs his materialistic disciples about economic development and sense gratification. And because of such instructions, the foolish disciples continue in the materialistic existence of ignorance. But your Lordship gives knowledge that is eternal, and the intelligent person receiving such knowledge is quickly situated in his original constitutional position. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So-called gurus instruct their disciples for the sake of material profit. Some guru advises that one meditate in such a way that his intelligence will increase in regard to keeping his body fit for sense gratification. Another guru advises that sex is the ultimate goal of life, and that one should therefore engage in sex to the best of his ability. These are the instructions of foolish gurus. In other words, because of the instructions of a foolish guru, one remains perpetually in material existence and suffers its tribulations. But if one is intelligent enough to take instructions from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as enunciated in Bhagavad Gita or the Sankhya philosophy of Kapila Deva, one can very soon attain liberation and be situated in his original position of spiritual life. The words Nijam Padam are significant. The living entity being part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has the birthright to a position in Vaikuntha Loka, or the spiritual world, where there is no anxiety. Therefore, one should follow the instructions of the Supreme Personality of God. Then, as stated in Bhagavad Gita, Tyaktadeham Punarajanma Naiti Mam Iti So Arjuna. After giving up one's body, one will return home back to Godhead. The Lord lives in the spiritual world in his original personality, and a devotee who follows the instructions of the Lord approaches him, Mam Etu Eti, as a spiritual person. Such a devotee returns to the personality of Godhead and plays and dances with him. That is the ultimate goal of life, to play and dance with the Supreme Lord, Haribo. That is the ultimate goal of life. In other words, chanting, dancing, and feasting. My Lord, text 52, my Lord, you are the supreme person, well-wishing friend of everyone, the dearmost friend, the controller, the super soul, the supreme instructor, and the giver of supreme knowledge, and the fulfillment of all desires. But although you are within the heart, the foolish, because of lusty desires in heart, cannot understand you. Oh, that's terrible. Purport. Herein the reason for foolishness is described. Because the conditioned soul is in this material world, it's the because the conditioned soul in this material world is full of materialistic lusty desires, he cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although the Lord is situated in everyone's heart, Ishvara Sarvabhutanam Hriday Sevarjanatistati, it is because of this foolishness that one cannot take instructions from the Lord. Although the Lord is ready to instruct everyone, both externally and internally, the Lord says, Tadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam upayantite. In other words, the Lord can give instruction on devotional service by which one can return home, back to Godhead. Unfortunately, however, people do not take this devotional service. The Lord, being situated in everyone's heart, can give one complete instructions on going back to Godhead. But because of lusty desires, one engages himself in materialistic activities and does not render service to the Lord. Therefore, one is bereft of the value of the Lord's instructions. By mental speculation, one cannot understand that one is not body, but a spirit soul. But unless one engages in devotional service, the real purpose of life is never fulfilled. The real purpose of life is to go back home, back to Godhead, and live with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, play with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, dance with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and eat with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These are different items of ananda, spiritual happiness, and spiritual variegatedness. Even though one may come to the platform of Brahmabhuta and understand his spiritual identity by speculative knowledge, one cannot enjoy spiritual life without the understanding the without understanding the supreme personality of Godhead. This is indicated here by the word Abhishta Siddhi. One can fulfill the ultimate goal of life only by engaging in devotional service to the Lord. Then the Lord will give one proper instructions on how to go back home, back to Godhead. Text 53. Second. O Supreme Lord, for the self realization I surrender unto you, who are worshipped by the demigods as the supreme controller of everything. By your instructions, exposing life's purpose, kindly cut the knot from the core of my heart and let me know the destination of my life. And that's very nice. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Sometimes it is argued that people do not know who is a spiritual master, and that finding a spiritual master from whom to get enlightenment in regard to the destination of life is very difficult. To answer all these questions, King Satyavrata shows us the way to accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the real spiritual master. The spiritual Lord, the Supreme Lord, has given full directions in Bhagavad Gita about how to deal with everything in this material world and how to return home back to Godhead. Therefore, one should not be misled by so called gurus who are rascals and fools. Rather, one should directly see the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the guru or instructor. It is difficult, however, to understand Bhagavad Gita without the help of the guru. Therefore, the guru appears in the Parampara system. In Bhagavad Gita 4.34, the Supreme Personality of Godhead recommends Tad Vidi Paripatena Paripastena Sevaya Upadekshami Upadekshanti Te Jnanam Jnaninas Tattvadarshina. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. Lord Krishna directly instructs Arjuna. Arjuna is therefore Tattvadarshi or Guru. Arjuna accepted the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram, Paramam Bhavam. Similarly, following in the footsteps of Sri Arjuna, who is a personal devotee of the Lord, one should accept the supremacy of Lord Krishna as supported by Vyasa, Devala, Asita, Narada, and later by the Acharyas Ramanujacharya, Madhavacharya, Nimbarka, and Vishnu Swami, and still later by the greatest Acharya, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, where then, is the difficulty in finding a guru. If one is sincere, he can find the guru and learn everything. One should take lessons from the guru and find out the goal of life. Maharaja Satyavrata therefore shows us the way of the Mahajana. Mahajana Yenakata Sapanta. One should surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Dasavatara, and learn from him about the spiritual world and the goal of life. Text 54. Sukadeva Goswami continued. When Satyavrata had thus prayed to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who had assumed the form of a fish, the Lord, while moving in the water of inundation, explained to him the absolute truth. Text 55. The Supreme Personality of Godhead thus explained to King Satyavrata the spiritual science known as Sankhya Yoga, the science by which one distinguishes between matter and spirit. In other words, Bhakti Yoga, along with the instructions contained in the Puranas, the old histories, and the Samhitas. The Lord explained himself in all these literatures. Text 56. While sitting in the boat, King Satyavrata, accompanied by the great saintly persons, listened to the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in regard to self-realization. These instructions were all from the eternal Vedic literature, Brahma. Thus, the king and the sages had no doubt about the absolute truth. Oh, it's wonderful. Text 57. At the end of the last inundation, during the period of Swayambhuva Manu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead killed the demon named Hayagriva and delivered all the Vedic literatures to Lord Brahma when Lord Brahma awakened from sleeping. Text 58. Satu Satyavarato Raja Jnana Vijnana Samyuta Vishnu Prasadat Kalpe Smin Asid Vaisvato Manu. Translation. King Satyavata was illuminated by all Vedic knowledge by the mercy of Lord Vishnu. And in this period, he has now taken birth as Vaivasvata Manu, the son of the sun god. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakura gives this verdict that the that Satyavrata appeared in the Chaksusa Manvantara. When the Chaksusa Manvantara ended, the period of Vaivasvata Manu, when the Chaksusa Manvantara ended, the period of Vaivasvata Manu began. By the grace of Lord Vishnu, Satyavrata received instructions from the second fish incarnation and was thus enlightened in all spiritual knowledge. Text 59. This story concerning the great king Satyavrata and the fish incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, is a great transcendental narration. Anyone who hears it is delivered from the reactions of sinful life. Oh, no, that's wonderful. One who narrates this description of the Matsya incarnation and King Satyavrata will certainly have all his ambitions fulfilled, and he will undoubtedly return home back to Godhead. Haribol. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Jai. Text 61.
You can take a
Text 61. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who pretended to be a gigantic fish, who restored the Vedic literature to Lord Brahma when Lord Brahma awakened from sleep, and who explained the essence of Vedic literature to King Satyavrata and the great saintly persons. Wow. Purport. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Here is a summary of Satyavrata's meeting with the fish incarnation of Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu's purpose was to take back all the Vedic literatures from the demon Hayagriva and restore them to Lord Brahma. Incidentally, by his causeless mercy, the Lord spoke with Satyavrata. The word Satyavratanam is significant because it indicates that those on the level of Satyavrata can take knowledge from the Vedas delivered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Whatever is spoken by the Supreme Lord is accepted as Veda. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Vedanta Krit Vedavit. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the compiler of all Vedic knowledge, and he knows the purport of the Vedas. Therefore, anyone who takes knowledge from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, or from Bhagavad Gita is, or from Bhagavad Gita as it is, knows the purpose of the Vedas. Vedaisya sarver aham eva vedya. One cannot understand Vedic knowledge from the Veda Vada Ratas, who read the Vedas and misconstrue their subject matter. One has to know the Vedas from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus end the Bhakti Vedanta purports of the 8th canto, 24th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam entitled Matsya, the Lord's Fish Incarnation. This commentation has been finished in our New Delhi Center today, the 1st of September, 1976, the day of Radhastami. By the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the Acharyas, Srila Narottama Dasa Thakur says, Tandira Charana Sevi Bhakti Sane Vasa Janame Haya E Abhilasa. I am attempting to present Srimad Bhagavatam in the English language by the order of my spiritual master, Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura, and by his grace, the work of translation is gradually progressing, and the European and American devotees who have joined the Krishna consciousness movement are helping me considerably. Thus, we have expectations of finishing the great task before my passing away. All glories to Shiguru and Gauranga. End of the 8th canto. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So that's the end. Oh no, that's the end. No, there's still something else in this book. Oh no, that is the end of the 8th canto. Haribol. All glory to Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
This is the next one.
Oh, that's the next one. Okay, well, the time is over now, right?
We are at 5 minutes.
Yeah, so we'll continue tomorrow on the next book.
Yes.
Look at all wonderful literature Prabhupada was giving us. So we'll start tomorrow on Srimad Bhagavatam, 9th canto.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Let me just see what it says here. Okay, there's a preface before we get into the core of this book. And the preface says, we must know the present need of human society. And what is that need? Human society is no longer bounded by geographical limits to particular countries or communities. Human society is broader than the Middle Ages, and the world tendency is toward one state or one human society. Human society is broader than in the Middle Ages, and the world tendency is toward one state or one human society. The ideals of spiritual communism, according to Srimad Bhagavatam, are based more or less on the oneness of the entire human society. Nay, if the entire energy of living beings. The need is felt by great thinkers to make this a successful ideology. Srimad Bhagavatam will fill the need in human society. It begins, therefore, with an aphorism of Vedanta philosophy, Janmad Asya Yata, to establish the ideal of a common cause. Human society at the present moment is not in the darkness of oblivion. It has made rapid progress in the fields of material comforts, education, and economic development throughout the entire world. But there is a pinprick somewhere in the social body at large, and therefore there are large-scale quarrels, even over less important issues. There is need of a clue as to how humanity can become one in peace, friendship, and prosperity with a common cause. Srimad Bhagavatam will fill this need, for it is a cultural presentation for the re-spiritualization of the entire human society. Srimad Bhagavatam should be introduced also in the schools and colleges, for it is recommended by the great student devotee, Harivilas Maharaja, in order to change the demoniac face of society. Komara acharet pragno dharman bhagavatam iha durlabam manasam janma tadapi adruvam artadam. Srimad Bhagavatam 7.6.1. Disparity in human society is due to lack of principles in a godless civilization. There is God, or the Almighty One, from whom everything emanates, by whom everything is maintained, and in whom everything is merged to rest. Material science has tried to find the ultimate source of creation very insufficiently, but it is a fact that there is one ultimate source of everything, that being. This ultimate source is explained rationally and authoritatively in the beautiful Bhagavatam, or Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is the transcendental science, not only for knowing the ultimate source of everything, but also for knowing our relation with Him and our duty toward perfection of the human society on the basis of this perfect knowledge. It is powerful reading matter in the Sanskrit language, and it is now rendered into English elaborately so that simply by a careful reading one will know God perfectly, so much so that the reader will be sufficiently educated to defend himself from the onslaught of atheists. Over and above this, the reader will be able to convert others to accept God as a concrete principle. Srimad Bhagavatam begins with the definition of the ultimate source. It is a bona fide commentary on the Vedanta Sutra by the same author, Srila Vyasadeva, and gradually it develops into 9 cantos up to the highest state of God realization. The only qualification one needs to study this great book of transcendental knowledge is to proceed step by step, cautiously, and not jump forward haphazardly, as with an ordinary book. It should be done through chapter by chapter, one after another. The reading matter is so arranged with the original Sanskrit text, its English transliteration, synonyms, translation, and purports, so that one is sure to become a God realized soul at the end of finishing the first 9 cantos. The 10th canto is distinct from the first 9 cantos because it deals directly with the transcendental activities of the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. One will be able to capture the effects of the 10th canto without going through the first. One will be unable to capture the effects of the 10th canto without going through the first 9 cantos. The book is complete in 12 cantos, each independent, but it is good for all to read them in small installments, one after another. I must admit my frailties in presenting Srimad Bhagavatam. Oh no, Prabhupada, you don't have any frailties at all. But still, I am hopeful of its good reception by the thinkers and leaders of society on the strength of the following statement of Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.11 Tad Vak Visargo Janataga Viplavo Yasmin Prapti Slokam Abhadavati Api Namani Anatasya Yaso Nikitani Yach Shinvanti Gaivanti Grinanti Sadhavam. On the other hand, the literature which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, form, and pastimes of the unlimited Supreme Lord is a transcendental creation meant for bringing about a revolution in the impious life of a misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literature, even though irregularly composed, is heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. Om Tat Sat, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Okay, my dear devotees, I think we'll stop right there. All of this is transcendental, and especially this verse, Tad Bhakti Visargo Janataga Vipravo Yasmin Prakti Slokam Abadavanti Api Namani Anatasya Yaso Nikitani Yach Chinvanti Gayanti Grinanti Sadhavach. On the other hand, the literature which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the Lord, of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, form, and pastimes of the unlimited Supreme Lord, is a transcendental creation meant for bringing about a revolution in the impious life of a misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literature, even though irregularly composed, is heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. Om Tat Sat, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
So we'll stop right there and tomorrow begin on the introduction to this part of the Shastras. Thank you very much, my dear devotees. Are there any questions or comments? Any questions or comments? So it's time now, right?
Yes, Maharaj.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, my dear devotees. We will now adjourn this seance, but we'll continue tomorrow on the introduction of the Bhagavata Purana, which is brilliant as the sun, and it has arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied by religion, knowledge, etc. Persons who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of ignorance in the age of Kali shall get light from this Purana. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.3.43. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Boy, we're so fortunate. Look at how many cantos and many pages Prabhupada has translated for our benefit. And when we come to the end, we start again from the beginning. And so therefore it never ends. It's eternal because it's transcendental knowledge. Okay, so now we have started the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Thank you very much, my dear devotees. Please chant Hare Krishna, Hare
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
This is real knowledge. And it's all bona fide because Prabhupada is a pure devotee. Okay, so thank you very much. Please have a good day today and meditate on this beginning of the 9th canto entitled Liberation. Haribo. Hare Krishna.
Hare.
Okay. Thank you very much.